For my delicious lemon meringue tart with a crystallised ginger crust, you need 3 elements. So the ginger crust, the lemon curd, and finally a French meringue topping. Start off with some soft butter, and I'm going to cream it with some sugar. So unlike the pâte brisée, like a regular short crust pastry I made in another video, I'm going to use a different technique of making it. I'm actually going to cream soft butter with sugar instead of using cold butter and rubbing it into the flour like with the simple short crust pastry I made. It's slightly different. Sweet short crust pastry is slightly more delicate than just a regular short crust pastry because you add sugar and egg yolks to enrich it, and that makes it a bit more difficult to handle, but it does flake and it's a bit more tender, buttery. You could even use this pastry as like biscuits. Alright, cream this together, that looks good. Very important, use soft butter, because if you don't have soft butter, you will be creaming for a very long time. It's a good move there. You'll be creaming for a very long time, and that will be a bit of a muscle ache. Okay, plain flour, in that goes. Oh, I forgot a little bit of sugar in that bowl. A bit of salt, just a pinch. And then carefully mix this together. If you have a big bowl, then you can go a bit crazy. But if you have a small bowl like this, if you mix this a bit like a mad person, then you will end up with flour all over yourself and the work surface. Carefully mix that together. Mix in that butter. Just scrape off the excess butter here. So you are ending up with this kind of crumbly texture. So I'm adding some crystallised ginger, just as my little twist, and it will go very well with the filling I'm going to make later. But you could leave it out. The pastry's really lovely on its own. You could add a vanilla pod, just scrape it out and add the grains, some orange zest, some lemon zest, a little bit of cinnamon, some ground ginger. Yeah, lots of different options. Okay, so finely chop the ginger. You want it quite fine, because if it's too chunky, it'll make it difficult to roll out pastry. One little tip is never drag your knife across the board. I can just hear all the people who love knives going inside, because if you scrape it along the board, then you blunt the blade. So just turn the knife around and scrape with the back of the knife. Okay, ginger goes in. Give it another little stir so you don't have the ginger all in one place. And then I'm going to add 2 egg yolks. I'm going to save my egg whites for later. I will need those. So I'm going to pop them in a little jar. I am the queen of saving jars. I have so many different jars in my cupboard, but it's so handy to have. Pop various different things in them. Okay, egg yolks are in. I'm just going to put this in the fridge. And then bring the dough together. The egg yolks add a lovely rich yellow tone to the dough. Mushing it together. You can see it's starting to clump in big lumps. Roll up the sleeves. I'm getting serious now. Okay. Now you can take it out of the bowl. You can see it's still quite crumbly. Basically, you're just taking the palm of your hand and you push the dough across the work surface. Push again, push. What that means is that all the butter and the flour and the sugar is equally distributed. and it's starting to come together, you can see. The dough has come together beautifully. And I haven't added any extra water. You don't need it. It's very, very soft though. So it probably could do with good half an hour in the fridge, or an hour, or you can leave it overnight. Chilling. I might just try and roll it out now, because what I tend to do is I roll it out first and then chill it. Okay, so I'm going to grab some baking paper. So it's actually greaseproof paper, and I'm going to roll my pastry between 2 sheets of greaseproof paper. Like so, with the rolling pin. Now, it's a bit sticky, this pastry, so I might just add a tiny, tiny bit of flour. Just an absolute tiny bit of sprinkle. Keep it to the minimum. You can use like a brush so it's equally distributed. Pop the paper back on, flip it over. I'm going to roll it out to about 3 millimeters, and so it fits my tin as well. So this is a 20 centimeter tin. It's quite deep because I've got a lot of filling I'm going to put in mine. Also buttered and floured, very important, you don't want it sticking. So I'm not using my rulers today. If you want to know what I'm talking about, check out my quiche recipe. I use my special rulers in that recipe. Just make sure you equally roll out the pastry. Let's have a little feel. Very nice. Okay, so before I put it in there, I'm actually going to let it chill for half an hour, just because when it's a little bit colder, it makes it easier to put it in the tin. Not too cold, just a little bit. So that's going to go in there for half an hour before I pop it in the tin. Go in there? Go in the fridge, I mean. Well, you know what I mean. If I can fit it in. Yes. Whoop, whoop. So my pastry's been chilling out in the fridge, relaxing. So I'm just going to warm it up a little bit. Just rub it. Okay. Peel off the baking paper. So a little bit of flour, just a tiny bit, helps if it's sticky and really difficult to handle. I don't trust myself. Okay, I've got to be confident. So if you prefer a less fiddly pastry, do my other recipe, the pâte brisée, simple short crust pastry. So you're tucking it in. You might need to pull it back up, but it's important you tuck it in properly. It's like making a bed. See, down there. And then I'm just going to run over it. Oh my goodness, that was so stressful. But does mean the pastry will taste super buttery and flaky, and all these offcuts you could probably just eat like this, or you could roll it out again, stamp out some biscuit shapes and bake it as a biscuit. Okay, so I'm going to press this in. If you've got a hole like this, can you see that hole there? Don't worry, get a bit of pastry, plug it up. Nobody's going to know except yourself. this is going back in the fridge at least an hour. It needs to chill for an hour. So the pastry firms up and it relaxes. Just helps. Okay, but I've got this far. That's the most difficult part with the pâte sucrée. Okay, pastry's cold. Yes, it's cold. Grab a fork. Make a few holes in it. It just stops the pastry from bubbling. And then you need some greaseproof paper with some lentils or some rice, or you could buy some expensive baking beans, but I'm just using lentils. It's just to weigh down the pastry. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to blind bake the pastry case. In the oven it goes for about 15 minutes. Then I'm going to take it off and bake it for another 10 minutes to get the bottom crispy. Crispy? Get the bottom golden. Crunchy? Well, you know what I mean. Okay, so I am ready to take out my lentils out of my tart because I need to crisp up the bottom. So you just grab the paper with the four edges, like so, pop it in the bowl, and then put your tart back in the oven because you can see it's not quite cooked. All right. So my tart is blind baked. You can see it's got lovely golden bottom, golden sides. It's a little bit hot. I'm going to let it cool down. Be very careful. The pastry is very delicate. I'm going to let it cool down before I add my lemon curd. But in the meantime, I'm going to make my French meringue. This time I'm cheating. So if you check out my meringue kisses video for French meringue, you can see me whisking it all by hand. What a workout. So I've got 2 egg whites. It's about 60 grams. I'm going to start whisking it up so it gets frothy. Salt. Sugar. The one thing you need to remember when you're using like an electric whisk is you've got to make sure you scrape down the sides because sometimes the sugar ends on the sides and it's important you incorporate it really well. So we continue, a little bit more sugar. So you can see we've got a nice peak, the stiff kind. Like you could do that. This bowl is so heavy. Can do the same test again. Ah. So same technique. I'm just being very lazy. This is the easier, sweat-free version. Okay, lemon curd, nice and cold. You can see it's set. I'm going to grab my cake stand, pop it on. Oh, that's very satisfactory. Okay, lemon curd. Like I said in the lemon curd video, if you want it super smooth, you just have to sieve it. I've kept my lemon zest in there. I don't mind the little bits. Adds character. Okay. those last bits of lemon curd, you can just lick off your finger. Just a bit of glue to stop the tart from sliding around. Oh, that's a bit better. Spread it evenly. Now, if you wanted to, you could just serve the tart like this, a simple lemon tart. Tarte au citron, as the French say. Sorry, that's an awful accent. I'm very sorry about that. But I'm going to top mine off with some French meringue. Piping bag. This time I've got just a regular nozzle, 5mm. That works for me. But you could use star-shaped one. Add your meringue. Okay. So I'm just going to pipe little blobs. Oh, there's something very satisfying about piping meringue. You could do a swirl. I don't know, you could do a zigzag. You could just do one big blob in the middle. You don't even need to pipe it. You could spread it on. I mean, it's as you like. Get creative. It's quite nice to have a little bit of a gap, I think, between the blobs, just because you can see the lovely lemon curd. It looks so pretty. So this is the fun part. I get to get my blowtorch out. Now, I don't like those little tiny blowtorches you get in the kitchen shop. I go to the DIY shop. If you've been watching my YouTube videos, you know that I'm a fan of DIY shops because you get a lot of power out this blowtorch, and you don't want a small flame. You want a flame that means business. So I'm going to use my blowtorch. Stand back. And you just want to lightly brush. Okay. Oh, that looks good. Just wanted a little bit of toastiness on my meringue top. You can put it under a very hot grill, but my grill's like very temperamental, and it has a hot spot and then a cold spot, and then it just ends up really uneven. So I tend to use the blowtorch, or you could just leave it very white. Ah, what a beauty. My lemon meringue tart with, oh, I forgot the crystallised ginger tart case. So 3 elements in it. You could cheat and buy some ready bought short crust pastry. If you really are going to cheat, then make sure you get the all butter one. So check on the ingredients. You could cheat and buy ready-made lemon curd. The only thing you can't cheat with is the French meringue, but that's really easy to do. If you want some more details on how to do it by hand, just check out the Meringue Kisses video. It's my stunning tart with crystallised ginger crust, lemon curd, and a meringue topping. Delicious. Who should I share this with? Maybe I just have it all for myself.